Hi, I'm Robin, and this is my best friend Jim. We met in junior high. It was my first day at school. I was bored in math class, so I decided to disrupt it. When the teachers walked in, I pretended to be sick. I clutched my throat and bulged my eyes out. Robin, are you okay? A rare disease. I forgot my pills at home. My hair's about to fall out. Hair? Nonsense. At first he didn't believe me, but then Jim broke in. I know what he's talking about. My grandfather has the same disease. He needs a doctor, now! I pretended I was about to fall. Jim ran up to me and held me up. He kept playing along, and the teacher eventually believed us. He got scared and ran for a doctor. We couldn't stop laughing. Everyone eventually found out that I had been pretending, and Jim had been playing along. We were called to the principal's office and punished. We had to stay for extra classes after school for a whole week, and grew really close during that time. Nothing changed in high school. Everyone knew us as the biggest pranksters around. While everyone was studying, we messed around and had fun. All our classmates loved it. Well, almost all of them. See that girl? That's Violetta. That nerd was a terrible bore. She kept trying to ruin our fun and set us on the right path. Of course, she never succeeded. Jim and I became famous, not only at school, but in our whole neighborhood. One day, we decided to ride my father's bike after school and took it from the garage without permission. We'll be in trouble if he finds out about this. When has that ever stopped us? At first, we practiced in the middle of nowhere, and then I decided to drive around the city. I always thought rules were beneath me, so I did not put on a helmet and drove at high speed. Everything was going fine until a girl appeared on the road. I immediately swerved and braked hard. Damn it! The girl looked terrified and stared at me in horror. Are you okay? She nodded slowly. I made sure that she was fine and drove on. Jim and I had a great time and sneakily returned the bike to the garage. However, in a couple of days, the truth came out. My dad got a speeding ticket. I had never heard him yell so loudly before. How irresponsible are you? I'm tired of your stupid antics. No pocket money for 2 weeks. Like that was gonna scare me. I was used to getting in trouble, so it didn't bother me. Soon, Jim and I got another idea. We decided to prank our computer science teacher. We came to the classroom early and installed a virus on his computer. As we were leaving, we ran into a girl. I'd never seen her before. She looked cool. Just look at her outfit. It turned out that she had just been transferred to our school. Her name was 𝗪𝗘𝗏. We were told to work on some boring tables when the class began. At some point, all the computers froze and a hilarious meme appeared on the screens. What is this? The teacher tried to remove it but failed. Jim and I high-fived each other, barely holding in laughter. At that moment, my eyes met 𝗪𝗏𝗏's. She must have realized it was our doing. I wondered if she would rat us out. Violetta suddenly stood up and gave us an annoyed look. They did this, I'm sure of it. Judging by the teacher's face, he agreed. He was about to say something when 𝗪𝗏𝗏 broke in. They had nothing to do with this. They were showing me around school before classes and didn't come here. We were together the whole time. That surprised me. It seemed 𝗪𝗏𝗏 was a cool girl. At least that was what I thought then. One day, she told our class that our last lesson had been canceled. Everyone went home, even Violetta. However, the next day, it turned out that 𝗪𝗏𝗏 had lied. The principal was furious. You were asked to tell them the teacher was going to be late. 𝗪𝗏𝗏 tried to look innocent. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Everyone was grateful to her, except Violetta, of course. That must have been the first time she skipped a class. After that incident, 𝗪𝗏𝗏 tried to befriend us and started suggesting all sorts of pranks. She was great, but a bit annoying. Eventually, we let her join us. While 𝗪𝗏𝗏 was on the lookout, Jim and I dressed up the skeleton model in the biology classroom. Then, we quickly left, rubbing our hands with glee. However, when everyone came to class, the skeleton looked like it usually did, and was standing in its usual place. Then, I realized that Violetta was looking at me. Damn it! She'd probably noticed us and ruined everything. Weirdly enough, she didn't tell anything to the teacher. Since that day, we had a rough patch. Our pranks had never failed so often before. It seemed like Violetta was constantly watching us and always staying one step ahead of us. It was infuriating. But one day, something truly bad happened. For some reason, Jim looked sad when he came to school. You okay? My parents bought a house on the other side of town. We're moving, and they're transferring me to another school. What? I was shocked. We couldn't let that happen. We should do something. We tried to think of ways to make Jim stay at our school. I called his parents, pretending to be the principal. Mrs. Brown, I heard rumors that you were going to transfer your son to another school. I would strongly advise against it. He has an excellent academic record in computer science. We want him to participate in the city contest.
He will still be able to participate after we transfer him.
That didn't work. but we weren't giving up. Jim joined a graffiti club that only existed in our school. Then he told his parents that he really wanted to keep drawing, but that didn't work either. You can come to the club after school. We even tried to steal the transfer request, but it was useless. Jim's parents were adamant. My friend was miserable. That's enough, Robin. I'm transferring and there's nothing we can do about it. Unfortunately, he was right. I really missed him at school. Of course, we didn't stop hanging out together or coming up with ideas for pranks. We still met after school, hung out outside, pulled pranks in stores, and had fun. 𝗪𝗘𝗟 often joined us. She wouldn't leave us alone, really. Soon enough, Jim started missing parties. Sorry, I'm busy. I can't make it tonight. Some other time, okay? It started to bother me. When we finally met, I asked him what was so important that he was busy all the time. I'm busy at school and have almost no free time. My parents also make me help out at home. It's a disaster. I didn't like it. And then I got a brilliant idea. Of course, all I had to do was transfer to Jim's school. That evening, I decided to talk to my parents. I want to transfer to another school. They immediately realized why. To hang out with that friend of yours again? Robin, quit messing around. It's time for you to grow up. You are graduating soon. What are you going to do after that? I hated such lectures. They made me mad, and I locked myself in my room. It's time for you to grow up. Jim and I will never change. Since my parents refused to help me, I would simply try my hardest to get expelled. You don't know what I'm capable of yet. The next day at school was crazy. I outdid myself. I started a food fight in the dining room and spilled soup over our chemistry teacher. Then I exploded several crackers with colored powder in a hallway at recess. As a result, the floor, walls, and students were bright and colorful. That was when 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗬 appeared. Your childish antics are ridiculous. Of course, I didn't listen to her and kept having fun. I burst into a classroom in a scary mask, laughing like a villain. The girls screamed in horror. The teacher clutched her heart. I was sent to the principal's office. Soon, my parents came as well. Robin's behavior is unacceptable. This is the last warning. One more prank and I'll kick him out of school. We're sorry, it won't happen again. My parents and I had a fight again. My dad was furious. That was exactly what I wanted. It was time for my next prank. I found an old coat in the closet and had to spend the whole evening working on it. The next day, I showed up at school looking like a homeless person. I was wearing a ragged, dirty coat and stank. I'd poured juice from canned fish and a bottle of cheap perfume all over myself. The result exceeded all expectations. Everyone shielded away from me and held their noses. I was walking down the hallway when I bumped into 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗬. Just imagine, she fainted from shock. It was a scandal. Everyone thought I was a real madman. You've gone too far this time. I got expelled and was overjoyed. Hooray, my plan worked. When I came home, my parents already knew about everything. The principal had called them. They were, to put it mildly, not thrilled. You are a disgrace to our family. I am ashamed to have such a son. Robin, how could you? When are you going to stop getting into trouble? I told you I wanted to be transferred to another school. It's all your fault. We had a terrible fight. I got angry, grabbed my backpack, and ran away from home. I decided to stay with Jim for a while and went to his place. When I rang the doorbell, his mother opened the door. Jim isn't here. He is in the park with his friends. What? What friends? But Jim said that he was very busy at school and at home, and that he didn't have any time to hang out with me. Nonsense. He goes to an ordinary school and he has no chores. I was so confused. Had Jim lied to me? Why would he do that? I went to the park to get to the bottom of it and immediately saw Jim. He was sitting next to his new friends and looked happy. They were discussing something and laughing. Hey Jim, mind explaining this? He hesitated, but then got up and took me aside. Listen, I didn't know how to tell you about it, but I've cleaned up my act and want to go to university. My new friends are a good influence. Are you trying to say I was a bad influence? I didn't say that. We both went too far. However, I decided to stop. You should consider changing too. I couldn't believe my ears. He sounded almost exactly like my parents. Do you want to meet my friends? Screw you! He could hang out with losers if he wanted to, but I wasn't about to join them. I pushed him away and left. I felt terrible. How could he do that? I wandered through the city and thought about his betrayal. I got kicked out of school, ran away from home, and now what? Should I find like-minded people? We could hang out and live together. I suddenly thought about 𝗪𝗘𝗟𝗖𝗓. She was a troublemaker and wanted to spend time with me. I called her and told her about my plan. I thought she would be happy, but 𝗪𝗘𝗟 didn't seem very enthusiastic.
I'm sorry, but this is too much for me. My parents won't let me go. It sounds like a terrible idea.
At that time, I was passing by a building. A girl was coming out of it, and we accidentally bumped into each other. I was about to keep walking, but then I heard that girl's voice. She was also talking on the phone, and I could hear her. Myrtle? She froze with her mouth open. I was also silently examining her. Where were her daring haircut, piercings, and tattoos? Wait a minute. It was her I'd almost run over. I looked at the building and saw the sign on it. It was an acting school. What is this? Myrtle looked miserable. I've liked you for a long time. After we ran into each other on the street, I decided it was time to act. I used my acting skills, changed my look, and transferred to your school. I really wanted you to like me. That's why I wore a wig and temporary tattoos and helped you with the pranks. Or rather, tried to help. To be honest, I fixed everything you did. So it had been 𝗪𝗓 and not Violetta. I was stunned. Jim wasn't the only one who had been lying to me that whole time. Robin, screw you! I thought you were like me, but you were just pretending. It was late evening. I was sitting on a bench. It was raining. I was cold, didn't know where to go. A silhouette suddenly appeared nearby. It kept getting closer, and soon I saw Violetta. What are you doing here? Why do you care? Keep walking. Why are you always so rude? I can see you're in trouble. Why couldn't she leave me alone? I have nowhere to go. I'm tired and hungry. Let's go to my place then. I hesitated, but didn't have any better ideas, so I had to agree. Violetta introduced me to her parents. We had dinner together, and she brought me to her room. I immediately noticed an unfinished model of a house on her table. What's that? Violetta looked embarrassed. I like designing things. I want to become an architect. Do you want to look at my drawings? That was interesting. I never would have thought that nerd had such creative hobbies. We spent the evening looking at her drawings and magazines. At some point, I realized that I was enjoying myself. I couldn't sleep that night. Everyone except me had hobbies and plans. Maybe Jim was right. What if I was just a fool that couldn't grow up? Mom and Dad came to pick me up in the morning. Violetta's parents had called them. My dad didn't yell and just frowned at me. I felt ashamed of myself for the first time in my life. I'm sorry, I really did go too far. I promise I'll change. We made up. My parents talked to the principal again, and I went back to school. Violetta offered to help me with my studies and tutored me after school. One day, I asked her to teach me to build models. She beamed at me. Of course! You can borrow some of my books. Life soon got better. I became seriously interested in design, trying to get better marks and applied to a good university. One day, I was leaving school when I saw Jim. He came up to me and looked at me guiltily. I wanted to apologize. Forget it. I'm not angry anymore. You were right. Partly thanks to you, I finally grew up. We started hanging out together again. Jim even introduced me to his friends. They turned out to be great. It might be hard to believe, but I'm dating 𝗪𝗓 now. How did that happen? She stopped being obsessed with me and focused on herself. She was great at acting and became much more confident. I reconnected with her and have no regrets. That's it. I hope my story will help someone. Do you know what you're gonna do in the future? Or are you afraid of growing up? Tell us in the comments down below.
Hi, I'm Jessie. Recently, I've been going through a rough patch. It all began when my parents had a fight. I was sitting in my room when I heard them shout, "We'll run out of money soon! Why are you so useless?" "It's not my fault there are problems at work. You could have supported me instead of yelling." Listening to it was unbearable, so I went for a walk. I called Peter and asked him to join me. Peter was my boyfriend. He was amazing. His family was rich, and he was the captain of the football team and the most popular guy in school. We met in a cafe. I'm so sick of my parents. Dad has some problems at work, and we need to break up. I thought I'd misheard. What did you say? I'm breaking up with you. You're not good enough for me. I thought it was a joke, but he looked serious. I didn't understand anything. Peter was about to leave, but I stopped him. You can't do this to me. I won't change my mind. He walked away, and I was left sitting there, completely shocked. The next day at school was a real nightmare. I heard students giggle behind my back. A lot of girls liked Peter. They used to be jealous of me, but now they gloated. The last class that day was chemistry lab. I was sitting at my desk and staring out the window sadly. I didn't even hear what the teacher was saying until he started yelling. "Rob, if you don't get your grades up, you'll be expelled. You don't know chemistry at all, and yet you're always skipping classes." The biggest school bully was being reprimanded again. Rob was a real headache for all the teachers. "Sit down next to Jessie. You'll be working in pairs." We mixed the reagents together but did the tasks separately. At some point, I noticed that Rob was slowing down. He was staring at a notebook and not writing anything. The teacher noticed it too and started yelling again. I felt sorry for Rob. I scribbled a solution on a piece of paper and quietly handed it to him. Thank you. When the teacher checked our work, he was very surprised. Maybe you're not completely hopeless. I didn't go to school the next day. I spent it lying in bed and feeling depressed. My parents were too busy arguing again and didn't pay attention to me. So I skipped almost a week of school before my best friend Tina suddenly came over. You can't keep doing that. You should go out and get to know some guys. Why? Because there is plenty of fish in the sea. We'll find you someone better. She made me change my clothes and go for a walk. Tina flirted with all the guys we met. Then, she called some friends of hers and invited them to a club. There were several single guys among them. This is Jesse. Tina was trying so hard to set me up with everyone that I felt awkward. As a result, I left at the first opportunity. I only felt worse by the end of the evening. Now I was sure that I didn't want anyone but Peter. But Tina didn't give up that easily. Soon, she bought us tickets to a concert of my favorite band. Peter had promised we would go to it before he broke up with me. I'm not going. Tina put her hands on her hips. Is this because of Peter? Forget about him and just have fun. In the end, she managed to convince me to come. We arrived half an hour before the concert and there were already a lot of people. Take a look at the boys. Maybe someone will catch your eye. I rolled my eyes. I was so sick of listening to such nonsense. Oh, look, there's Dean. He's really cool. To be honest, Dean was quite handsome. We went to the same school. He was constantly performing at school concerts. Sometimes he did stand-ups, and sometimes he even sang. Tina dragged me toward him. She made me so mad. Stop trying to set me up with everyone. Luckily, someone called Dean after a couple of minutes and he left. Before I could relax, I saw Peter nearby. He was talking to some girl and looked happy. I felt terrible. Had he already moved on? I was in no mood for dancing and decided to leave. But Tina wouldn't let me go. What did we agree on? Stop moping. Look at all the guys around. I already have a new boyfriend, okay? Of course, Tina didn't believe me. I got angry and did something crazy. I grabbed the first guy walking by and kissed him. Only at the very last moment did I notice that it was Rob. Damn it! He had also come to the concert. Tina was shocked. My adrenaline was going through the roof, but I tried to stay calm. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Peter looking in our direction. I got an idea. Before anyone came to their senses, I dragged Rob to the side. What was that just now? I have an offer for you. Pretend to be my boyfriend and I will help you with your studies, okay? Rob was a bad guy and girls usually liked that. So he had a lot of admirers. I was hoping that Peter would get jealous, regret his decision, and crawl back to me. Rob didn't hesitate for long. I agree. He didn't leave my side during the whole concert. I noticed Peter looking at us. He was no longer smiling and looked gloomy. It seemed like my plan had worked. After the concert, Rob offered to walk me home. We ran into Peter at the exit. Have you found a new boyfriend already? I smiled sweetly. My personal life doesn't concern you anymore. Rob and I squeezed past him and went outside. At home, I tossed and turned in my bed for a long time and could not fall asleep. Peter would definitely be mine. I almost overslept the next morning. I quickly threw textbooks into my bag and suddenly saw a flash drive. It definitely wasn't mine. What was it doing in my bag? I had no time to think about it and ran to school. Tina was waiting for me there. Finally! Tell me, when did you start dating the biggest bully at school? Well, they say opposites attract. At that moment, the bell rang, and I went into the classroom. From that day on, Rob and I posed as a couple. I tried to walk where Peter could see us. Meanwhile, he was always hanging out with that girl I'd seen at the concert. I was jealous and could only grit my teeth with anger. One day, I accidentally overheard Peter asking her out. They decided to go to a cafe. Of course, I immediately dragged Rob there. We sat down at the next table. I flirted loudly and went out of my way to get Peter to notice us. It worked. He hardly listened to that girl and kept looking in our direction the entire time. I was hoping Peter would come up to us, but that didn't happen. Soon, they were gone. I guess the disappointment was written on my face because Rob tried to comfort me. Don't worry. He's a jerk anyway. It didn't get any easier after that. I spent the evening being miserable at home. Then I decided to write an essay and suddenly noticed the flash drive on the table. I had completely forgotten about it. I felt curious, so I put it into the computer. There were several audio files on it of some guy singing cheesy songs. He had such a beautiful voice that I couldn't stop listening to them. I googled his pseudonym but only found a half-empty social media account. He was probably just starting his career and wasn't famous yet. It was still unclear how the flash drive had ended up in my bag. Maybe someone at the concert had accidentally dropped it there, or had it been planted on purpose. At the concert, I had been with Tina and Rob the whole time. Wait, Dean had been there too! He could sing! Maybe it was his flash drive? Before going to bed, I listened to the song several times. The words were so touching, I felt like the song had been written for me. In the end, I couldn't help but set one of the songs as my ringtone. I wanted to talk to Dean at school the next day, but he was sick and didn't come. After school, Rob and I went to the stadium. I did the tasks for him and watched the game at the same time. It was football practice. Peter kept looking at me, getting distracted all the time and missing balls. "What's the matter with you today? We have a competition coming up." "Back off." As a result, Peter got mad, passed the ball to another player, and left. I was glad. If he was reacting like that, then he definitely still cared about me. I was finishing my assignment when my mom suddenly called me. While we were talking, Rob was giving me a weird look. "Do you like such music?" At first, I didn't understand what he was talking about, but then I realized that he meant my ringtone. I heard it recently and now I'm hooked. The next day, I came to school and noticed that people were staring at me again. Was it because of Rob? But then Tina came up to me and showed me a video. Peter was dumping me in it, and you could hear every word he said. The video went viral. Do you think Peter sent it to everyone? I didn't want to believe it, but who else could it be? Was he such a jerk that he had decided to embarrass me because of Rob? Everyone was laughing at me all day. "Hey, Jessie, are you good enough yet?" The girls kept teasing me, and it was terribly infuriating. "You think you're so great, huh?" Everyone is afraid of Rob, so they quickly left me alone. I was going to tutor him after school, but then I noticed Dean in the hallway. "Did you accidentally lose a flash drive with your songs?" "What songs? I like to sing, but I don't write music." I was stunned. So the flash drive wasn't his? But then whose? "Well, are we going to study?" While we were doing that, I couldn't stop thinking about the songs. I didn't even hear Rob calling me at first. Sorry, I was just so sure those were Dean's songs. "Is it that important for you to find out who that singer is?" He gave me a weird look again. That was when I remembered that concert. I had immediately thought of Dean, but Rob had been there too. I was beginning to realize something. Is this flash drive yours? Rob looked shy. It was so unlike him. Both the flash drive and the songs. I was holding it when you kissed me and accidentally dropped it. I'd looked for it afterward, but it turned out it fell into your bag. It was crazy. Rob was a songwriter? But why didn't you tell anyone about it? It's so cool. Cool? On the contrary, I have a reputation as a bad guy. Imagine what would happen if everyone found out I sang cheesy songs. Nonsense! You have a real talent that needs to be developed. Rob disagreed and made me promise to keep his secret. At school, we kept pretending to be a couple. We were walking in the yard one day when we suddenly saw Peter nearby. He was hugging that girl. That made me so mad. I was angry with myself, but I couldn't help it. After the girl had left, I felt awful again. I realized it was then or never. I quickly approached Peter. "I still love you, and I'm ready to forgive you. Let's start over." Before he could say anything, I kissed him. It seemed that spontaneously kissing guys was becoming a habit of mine. Rob tried to stop me, but I pushed him away. After the kiss, Peter looked at me in confusion and stayed silent. My heart was beating like crazy. And then he suddenly kissed me. "Jessie, I'm sorry, but I'm running late right now. Let's talk tomorrow." I was over the moon. Hooray! It had worked. He had kissed me and agreed to talk, so things would get better. I wanted to tell someone about it, so I called Tina. Peter and I are a couple again. What about Rob? Anyway, I wouldn't be so happy if I were you. Have you already forgotten how much he hurt you? I didn't want to listen to her. I came back home in a great mood, but soon it was ruined. Unlike me, Dad came home from work upset. "They want to fire me." "You said you solved all the problems. When will this end?" They started fighting again, and I locked myself in my room. The next day, I came to school feeling excited. I met Peter before class and immediately realized something was wrong. He looked at me coldly and seemed indifferent. "Yesterday's kiss was a mistake. Nothing can happen between us. I'm sorry." I couldn't believe it. He betrayed me for the second time? But why? Our classmates were standing nearby and they quickly spread the news. Everyone started laughing at me again, but Rob stood up for me. I went out into the yard at recess and he came with me. Whatever, I won't bother Peter again. That's right, there are a lot of other guys around. Who would want to date me? I'm a laughing stock. I want to. I've liked you for a long time, Jesse. His confession shocked me. I couldn't believe my ears. I thought love was a weakness, just like music. So I stayed silent. But since we're pretending to be a couple anyway, let's date for real. I wanted to forget Peter, and Rob turned out to be a good guy. So I didn't hesitate long and soon agreed. Rob was constantly preparing surprises for me, giving me various gifts, and being a great boyfriend in general. One day, we went to a karaoke cafe and I asked him to sing. Come on, there are so many people here. Everyone should know about his talent. One day, I couldn't help myself and broke my promise. I came to the school radio studio and found Dean there. Play this song. It's Rob singing. My favorite song started to play in the entire school when we were standing in the hallway. Dean announced the singer's name. I watched Rob's reaction and saw him suddenly turn pale. Why would you do that? I told you not to tell anyone. I was about to answer when Peter ran up to us. He pushed Rob. I had never seen him so angry. Not only are you ruining my life, but now you've stolen my song. They almost got into a fight, but were separated by our classmates. I didn't get it. What do you mean Rob stole your song? That song had been written by Peter. I work with a band. Peter recently contacted me and told me about his music. Then we met at a concert and he brought a flash drive with the recordings of the songs. I listened to them and recommended Peter to a production company. Now, his first song is being prepared for an official release. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. But why did Rob lie to me? Peter suddenly took my hand and pulled me away from prying eyes. Rob is a real scumbag. I never told you about it, but my father is a tyrant. He thinks that boys shouldn't make music, and I should play football instead. That was why I had been hiding my passion for a long time. But that's not all. My father tries to control my every move. He found out about you recently. He was furious that I was dating a girl from a poor family and demanded we break up. Of course, I refused. So he started causing problems for your dad. He works at my father's company. He threatened he would get you expelled as well. I had to give up, but I didn't stop loving you. I just had to hide it. But my father hired Rob to follow me around and paid him. It was Rob who had filmed me breaking up with you and sent the video to everyone in school. I was speechless. I put the flash drive in your bag. We bumped into each other on the way out of the concert, remember? I thought that you would recognize my voice, hear the words, and understand everything. So that was why it had felt like those songs had been written for me. But it hadn't even occurred to me that it was Peter singing. Why did Rob say he was the singer, though? He really likes you. I saw the way he looked at you a long time ago. He probably wanted to impress you. Such news made my head spin. I'm tired of being afraid and depending on my father. I'm sorry that I hurt you. Let's date again. You can probably guess what I said. I loved him too much to stay angry. Moreover, Peter was not to blame for anything. We started dating again. Naturally, Rob told Peter's father about us. He got angry and made sure I got expelled. But you know what? Peter transferred to another school with me. He left the football team and released a song. Then, his father got my dad fired. My parents finally decided to divorce after that. At first, I was very worried about it all. But now, I think it was maybe for the best. Peter is rapidly gaining popularity. He even earned his first money. We live the way we want to and don't depend on our parents. And what is your relationship with your parents like? Tell us in the comments down below.